Breadcrumbing is not accidental behavior. It is not emotional confusion, and it is definitely not romantic uncertainty. Breadcrumbing is a low-effort emotional strategy. It happens when someone gives you small, irregular doses of attention, not to build intimacy, but to maintain access. Access to your emotions, access to your availability, access to your energy. A message that arrives right when you start pulling away. A reaction to your story after days of silence. A casual stranger that reopens the door. Not enough to move forward, just enough to keep you from walking away. This is not connection. This is emotional maintenance. Breadcrumbing keeps you emotionally activated but relationally stagnant. Your brain stays alert. Your nervous system stays engaged. Your heart stays open, but nothing actually progresses. And the reason it works so well is neurological. The human brain becomes more attached under inconsistent reward patterns. This is the same mechanism used in gambling. You never know when the next message will come. You never know how warm or cold they'll be. You never know what version of him you'll get. So you wait, you check, you hope. Not because you're weak, but because your biology is being played. Breadcrumbing creates emotional anticipation without emotional safety. And anticipation feels powerful, but safety is what love actually needs. Breadcrumbing keeps you suspended and almost chosen, almost important, almost valued, but never fully. And almost can hold someone longer than a clear no ever could. People who breadcrumb are rarely unaware. They know exactly what they are doing. They test. They withdraw. They return, not because they miss you deeply, but because they miss access. Breadcrumbing is driven by ego regulation. Your attention stabilizes their self-worth. Your replies confirm their desirability. Your emotional availability reassures them. They feel wanted without having to show up. This is not intimacy. This is validation harvesting. Breadcrumbing often comes from people who want the benefits of connection without the responsibility of consistency. They don't want to be alone, but they also don't want to be accountable. They want the option of you without the obligation to you. And here's the most important part. If someone wanted a relationship with you, they would simplify things. They would reduce uncertainty. They would increase clarity. They would create emotional safety. Breadcrumbing does the opposite. It multiplies doubt. It stretches waiting. It fragments your confidence. Not because you are too much, but because they're doing too little. Breadcrumbing is not about attraction. It's about control over emotional access. And control always feels confusing to the person being controlled. Breadcrumbing doesn't hurt immediately. It erodes slowly. At first you feel chosen, then unsure, then anxious, then small. You start negotiating with yourself. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe he's busy. Maybe I should be more patient. Your standards begin to shrink. Your expectations lower. Your self-trust weakens. You stop asking direct questions because you're afraid of the answers. You stop expressing needs because you don't want to scare him away. And eventually, you silence yourself to keep a connection that was never secure. This is how breadcrumbing turns into emotional self-abandonment. Not because you are weak, but because intermittent hope is powerful. Breadcrumbing disconnects you from your intuition. Your body feels uneasy, but your mind keeps making excuses. And the longer this goes on, the harder it becomes to leave. Not because you love them deeply, but because you invested deeply. An investment creates attachment, even when the return is minimal. Breadcrumbing does not end with explanations. It does not end with ultimatums. It does not end with waiting. It ends with non-participation. You stop responding to minimal effort. You stop rewarding inconsistency. You stop making access easy, not aggressively, not dramatically, but clearly. Consistency becomes the requirement. Clarity becomes the baseline. Effort becomes the entry point. And then something interesting happens. People who breadcrumb either rise or they disappear. Both outcomes are information. You don't need closure conversations. You need behavioral truth. Someone who values you will not risk losing you over crumbs. Breadcrumbing only survives where standards are flexible. And the moment yours become firm, the dynamic collapses, not because you changed them, but because you stopped changing yourself.